Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. My name is Carson Heddy. I am the Managing Director for the Americas for Microsoft Tech for Social Impact. Excited to have you here. This is the latest in our ongoing series to educate nonprofits on different value that Microsoft can bring to your end users and to those that you serve. Thank you for the time today. First off, one of the things that we're going to dive into today is we know that it is critical for nonprofits to be leveraging technology. And furthermore, there's a lot of importance and paramount right now in security and also AI. And we're going to talk about how those are being infused into Microsoft's latest innovations. There was a lot of announcements that came out of Ignite, specifically around our Surface lineup, and we're going to demystify some of that today. It's actually been almost 13 years since the Surface was first launched, and over the years it's become a very tried, true, and tested, reliable form factor for organizations everywhere. But what we're going to dive into more deeply today is how nonprofits are leveraging Surface from an efficiency perspective, managing security, and also cost effectiveness with this lineup of tools. Um, So today, as we hear from some industry experts that work closely with nonprofits, but also in the realm of Surface, we're going to look at how Surface is being leveraged for modernized end user management, um, driving real impact in productivity in the day to day, and furthermore, ways that we are helping with mobility for frontline teams and enhancing security for sensitive data. So a litany of topics and quite a lineup. What's latest in Surface for nonprofits? So to kick us off, I'm actually going to turn it to one of my colleagues, Brandon Dorfman. He's led the effort around Surface for Tech for Social Impact for many years. And not only has he been at Microsoft for over a decade, but very passionate about serving the nonprofit space and working with Microsoft Surface. So I'll pass it to Brandon momentarily. We want this to be interactive today, so feel free to feed us questions in the chat, and we will also have some dedicated Q&A later on in the session. Brandon, thanks for joining us, and I'll pass it to you.
Thank you very much, Carson. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Super thrilled to have you with us today, and it's so great to see so many familiar names joining us again, as well as so many new ones eager to learn about Microsoft's latest advancements in our device strategy. As Carson mentioned, my name is Brandon Dorfman, and I'm a modern workplace specialist for our Tech for Social Impact team. And I've had the privilege of working with the Surface team since the days of Surface 3, back to 2015. And it's been incredible to watch how these solutions have evolved since then. And what excites me most is seeing how nonprofits are redefining their end user device strategy and the real impact that that's having. There's one often misconception that Microsoft devices are too expensive, but time and time again, we've seen nonprofits achieve tremendous value with Surface. Through our work with nonprofit organizations, we've identified 5 key themes that make Microsoft devices a smart, cost-effective choice. We know nonprofits and international development organizations need tools that empower teams to work from anywhere, whether it's in the office or out in the community. When it comes to efficiency and productivity, a great example is Vitalant, one of the world's largest blood service providers, which transitioned thousands of employees to Surface. The result? Fewer tech headaches, improved collaboration, and a smoother donation process, critical for saving lives. We know that cost effectiveness and longevity is super important, and nonprofits need durable, high-performance devices that maximize budgets. The Salvation Army found that investing in quality devices helped them stretch resources further while enhancing service delivery. We know that security and data protection is important. When working with sensitive beneficiary data, security is non-negotiable. Bernardo's, for example, leverage Microsoft Cloud and Surface devices to ensure that their data stays protected while enabling smarter, safer work. Simplified IT management. With Windows Autopilot, many organizations have streamlined device setup, significantly reducing IT burdens so staff can focus on their mission instead of troubleshooting tech issues. And these aren't just case studies, they're real-world examples of how modern device strategies are helping nonprofits do more, serve better, and embrace the future of work. And so today we're super excited to explore how Surface, combined with AI-powered technology, can help your organization ensure smarter, scale faster, and amplify its impact. And with that, I'll hand it over to Jacob, who will walk us through the latest Surface lineup and share how Microsoft's device strategy can support yours. Over to you, Jacob.
Thank you so much, Brandon and Carson. Really appreciate that intro and that welcome. But team, my name is Jacob Rhodes. I'm so excited to be here with you all today, just to walk through some practical applications, demystify some things, answer your questions. To echo what Carson said at the top and what Brandon dove into, we want this to be interactive. We want you to ask questions in the chat or the Q&A. We've got those folks in here and others to help answer. And then I'm also happy to answer them all in the Q&A section kind of towards the end as well. So we're going to dive into a few different things today. But I do want to just talk about this connection for Surface into the nonprofit world. And a part of that is bringing value, not just in the Surface devices, but in how they can connect to AI, how they can connect to employee productivity, and how they can connect to better outcomes for the organization and your ability to advance your mission even better than before. And one of those things is AI. It's a key topic, and it's kind of one of the headlining topics of our webinar or our briefing today. And I do want to just point out that Microsoft brings AI to life on Surface devices. So if you're interested in exploring AI, or you're already full in on how AI can advance your organization, Surface is there, and we're there to meet you. And we bring AI to life really, really well on our devices. And I'll give some examples and showcase some demos of that in a little bit. But I just want to pull out that the tools that many organizations are using today to ensure better productivity and better outcomes, a lot of them are Microsoft driven. So we're excited to dive into those a little bit. Now, I want to also point out that our Surface devices, we have that they span quite a lot of categories of devices now. We've got laptops, we've got 2-in-1s, we even have productivity meeting room devices like the Surface Hub 3. And throughout there, I'm going to create some clarity on all of these devices. Starting on one side, we've got a 10-inch tablet with the Surface Go 4. But we also have 13-inch tablets on the Surface Pro, both the Pro 10 and the newest Pro 11th generation of our Copilot Plus PCs. And we'll demystify that in a second. We also have, on the laptop side, our smallest laptop, the Laptop Go 3, ultra portable 12.5-inch screen. But we have everything from our top-end Laptop Studio, the second generation of that with some dedicated NVIDIA graphics. But most organizations are choosing our Laptop 6 with Intel processor, or our latest laptops with both Snapdragon and Intel processors. And we'll demystify them. And those are Copilot Plus PCs as well. We'll demystify that a little bit too. So I just wanted to highlight those specific products, and let's kind of dive into specifics of each product right there. Before we do that, I want to talk like kind of bigger picture about the Surface portfolio. I want to talk about the value that it can bring to your staff and to your end users and to your employees. And so one of those things is how Surface brings value to the end user, to the staff member, by increasing the ROI. And so if we jump into this slide, I love highlighting the fact that we design, test, and build Surface devices with people at the center. Whether it's the refined typing experience with great key travel, curvature, the dish of the keys, whether it's through our design, the way the device feels in your hand, that advanced materials and rigorous testing for that lasting value. And I will point out here, if we jump out for a second, I will also point out that the design of our products isn't just in how they feel, but how they function and how they're able to now be repaired and more repairable than ever. But all of these things drive great usage for staff members. Now, I also want to talk about value to the organization. When you're thinking about the bottom line of the organization, how to make the most of your investments, you're thinking about making sure that you're capitalizing on the future now. And I've started at the top talking about AI, but what I want to land on here is that these devices are built for what's next. We know that the world is changing at a really, really rapid pace right now. And we know that these devices, having an on-device AI component, the ability for you to build that into your plan for your organization to achieve greater impact, is crucial, even if you're not ready to enact that plan right today. Thinking about devices that are ready for you whenever your organization is ready to take that step into AI. And it's also about nailing the fundamentals. Organizations care about nailing great battery life and fast charging, great performance. And at Surface, we have versatile form factors, the Pro and the laptop being standouts, and also your choice of silicon. I know that can seem overwhelming, so I'm going to help demystify that for you too. But there's one more group of folks in an organization that we feel like Surface makes a huge impact on, and that's actually IT. And I know that a lot of organizations, like IT wears a lot of hats, and sometimes they wear different hats than in many other kind of businesses. But what's all organizations care about is securing their devices, making it simple to manage these devices, and Surface really shines at those things. They're designed, built, and delivered with end-to-end supply chain security in mind. We've got hardware back protection, we've got Microsoft custom designed and built firmware, and advanced Windows 11 security features that are enabled by default. And actually, if I talk about that firmware piece, that's so crucial. Microsoft is really one of the only vendors that designs and builds all of our own firmware. We don't rely on a third party, and it allows us to do some really, really cool things with deploying these devices really simply with Windows Autopilot and managing them through Microsoft Intune as the preferred way. You can manage these devices like any other Windows device as well if you want to use more traditional management methods. But if you're ready to take the plunge into Autopilot and Intune management of these devices, they're really, really set up very well for that, with clean versions of Windows, with great value brought in the warranty and exchange workspace, where you're able to actually deregister those devices for you if you work with Microsoft support. And the security is top notch. Microsoft has over 1 billion endpoints in Windows, and we use all of those signals to make, of course, the whole ecosystem of devices more secure, but hardware changes on our Surface devices that make for a better secure experience for the organization and to ensure that you're just freed up to be able to serve your mission. And you don't have to think and worry as much about those IT headaches and burdens because we've thought of them and we've got you taken care of. So I wanted to land on those key groups, and I think about the value that we talk about that Surface brings, as it really brings value to all parts of the organization. And so as Carson, as Brandon kind of opened up with, a lot of times cost is prohibitive for certain industries and certain types of workers to be able to use a premium device like a Surface. And I want you to understand today that not only do we have options across different price points, but also the value of that initial device purchase pays off over many years of the investment in the device by adopting these modern management capabilities in Microsoft Intune and by taking advantage of AI as a key thing as well. So I want to just talk about how Surface kind of lands all of these things together, whether it's through beautiful screens, whether it's through engaging touchscreen experiences. Honestly, one of the biggest ones is these high-quality cameras in all of our Surface devices. So you don't need third-party webcams, and you can be seen and heard from anywhere. Also, natural and fluid inking, especially on our 2-in-1 devices, allows for a much richer experience and a really refined typing experience, which is best in class. All right, so I've talked a lot at the start. Let's showcase some demos. And actually, the first demos I'm going to give will help differentiate with our Surface Pro devices. So our Surface Pro is our kind of the device that a lot of folks and a lot of organizations think of when they think of Surface. You've got a 2-in-1 device sold in either black or platinum, our signature Surface, and it's a 13-inch screen. And now you look at the slide behind me and you see a few things about it. First of all, if we jump in, we've got multiple different options. We've got a Surface Pro 10 for business, a Surface Pro for business with Snapdragon, a Surface Pro for business with Intel Core Ultra, both of these being Copilot Plus PCs. That seems like a lot. And so I'll just simplify it. If we jump back out, I'll simplify it. And I'll say that these Surface Pros are built for business. They're built for organizations to do more. They're great 2-in-1 devices, and all of them actually have the exact same form factor. They all feel like the same device in your hand, and the differences are mostly on those internals. They all have great webcams, great screens. No matter which Surface Pro you choose, you have great technology built in. But the two devices on the right here, the Surface Pro with X Elite and the Surface Pro with Intel, both of these being Copilot Plus PCs, these devices are Copilot Plus certified. And that's a topic that we can rabbit hole down on. But what I want to just land here for this audience is that a Copilot Plus PC brings together the best of Surface and the best of Windows and the best of Copilot, the best AI capabilities on device. And these Copilot Plus PCs have at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. They have great battery life. They have the latest version of Windows installed on them, Windows 11 version 24H2. But they also have a Copilot key on them to be able to invoke Copilot in the cloud really easily through just a press of a button. And they have hardware that is different and unique in the industry. They have a neural processing unit, or an NPU. And that NPU allows for accelerated experiences on the endpoint. So when we think about AI, and Microsoft thinks a lot about AI right now, we have massive amounts of investments in cloud-delivered AI through our data centers and through Azure. I mean, Azure powers, all of ChatGPT essentially, right? And we also have a ton of our Copilot functionality that is also advanced in the cloud. But it makes sense for organizations, whether they want to manage cost, whether they want to manage privacy, a whole host of reasons that you should take advantage of the processing power that's on your device. And what the NPU allows for is for you to do things on your device at a very, very low power draw so that you're freeing up the rest of your system to do your day-to-day work and day-to-day productivity. So if I take this Surface Pro here, I'm actually going to showcase a few of the ports just to make sure you have ultimate clarity on it. So I've got a Surface Connect port, and this is actually the charging port that comes in the box on these devices. It's a magnetic breakaway connection, a great way to charge the device. We have fast charging on all of these devices from 0 to 80% in under an hour, which is awesome to have. On the other side here, we've got USB Type-C ports. Now, on our Intel-based devices, these are Thunderbolt 4 certified. On our Snapdragon device, these are USB 4. They essentially can do the same things. You can charge with them, you can plug into docking stations, you can plug into multiple external monitors using these, or our Surface Dock solutions that you have one cable to run to multiple docks as well. But you may notice that there's actually a chamfer here. And when you open up that chamfer, that's what allows for the kickstand to open. And underneath the kickstand, there's one other thing I love highlighting on these devices, and that's actually our repairability is improved so much on these devices that we even have a removable SSD right here. That actually will kill power to the whole system when that's removed, allowing for the device to be much more easily repaired and accessed either by you and your IT, or by an authorized service provider, or by Microsoft ourselves when we're repairing these devices. So you've got more options than ever. And if we jump out on the device a little bit, I want to showcase that that kickstand allows for full versatility. This being a full Windows 11 PC, you've got the ability to use it in a variety of different ways. You may notice that it logged me right in using my face. Our Surface devices have Windows Hello facial recognition on them, so you can jump right in and be seen and heard right away. I also have a new keyboard with these Surface devices. So if you've used the Surface Pro in the past, you may notice that when you detach the keyboard, nothing really happens. You can use this device as a tablet. Well, that's still an option, and you've got a ton of versatility with using the device as a tablet, but you now have the ability to use the keyboard fully disconnected if you opt for the Surface Pro Flex keyboard. Now, this is our top-end keyboard. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily for every single user. What I will say is that it has a haptic touchpad for better, more inclusive touchpad scenarios. So people with all different types of limbs are able to use the mouse in the same way. Great key travel, really, really stiff. But what's really cool is you can use it fully disconnected. And you can even use it in scenarios with maybe a stand like this. I love highlighting this. It's a Design for Surface stand made by Kensington. But what it does, we may need to go to camera 1 for this. What it does is allows for your Surface device to be raised up. Laptop stands are not a new thing, but for a tablet like the Surface Pro, you now have the ability to raise up your camera, raise up your screen, and then use this much more ergonomically with this as your desktop keyboard. And I actually use this at Microsoft with my ultra-wide monitor at my desk, and I just bring my Surface Pro and this stand, and that's my whole keyboard. I plug it into a docking station with a single cord, and everything works. And I use this as my camera, speaker, and microphone. I don't need to invest in third-party cameras, third-party microphones, and have a whole dedicated desktop setup. Everyone looks good on video calls at Microsoft because we all have Surface devices. And on the Surface Pro, there's even a rear-facing webcam as well. And so whether you're in a Teams or Zoom call, or whether you're recording something out in the field, you've got the ability really easily to use that 4K webcam as well. So that's something that most PCs don't have, but a Surface does have. The other thing you may notice, and actually to highlight this, I'm going to plug in so you can see inside of my screen. Once I plug in, we'll jump in, and you'll notice that actually I've been running the whole time live captioning. Now, this live captioning is one of those Copilot Plus PC features. And what's cool about it is you can see the captions running at the top of my screen. These captions are just built into Windows. They're an accessibility feature. You can actually do captions right now on any Windows 11 PC. But what's special about a Copilot Plus PC is that it has an NPU, a neural processing unit here. And that NPU on a Copilot Plus PC is what is powering these live captions. And that also means that it's freeing up my CPU and my GPU to do other things. And it's taking a lot less power to run this live captioning. It will even do live translation as well. So if you can imagine scenarios where you've got your PC with you and you want to listen to any other language, actually there's over 44 languages that are supported right now, it'll automatically translate those back into English for anyone with a Copilot Plus PC. And I actually keep this feature on all the time. The key reason is that I learn by viewing and by seeing things and reading, and I don't learn just by listening. And so when I'm on a Teams call or I'm actually just in my office, I keep the live captions on. And if we actually step away back for a moment, the microphones will pick up my voice anywhere in this room. Something unique about Surface devices is their dual studio microphones across the whole portfolio of devices does a great job of highlighting your voice in any room. And that, in combination with great features in Teams, like speaker recognition, allows for a really, really great audio experience on these devices too. So wanted to highlight that and just highlight a couple of those Copilot Plus features. The other thing I wanted to highlight is something basic, like the blur on your camera. These background effects, if I actually jump into the device, these things are used all the time. And actually, if I see if I have my camera turned on here. There we go. So now you can see me here with my camera, and I can turn on different studio effects. So I can turn on like a portrait blur, which is a really high quality blur around me. I can also turn on like an eye contact feature. Now this seems like a small thing. Blur is something that can be done in just about any application nowadays, but when it's on a Copilot Plus PC, it's actually running off of that NPU. That AI processor handles it so much more efficiently, and it can just be done in the background without fan noise kicking up, without hurting your battery life, and most importantly, freeing up your CPU and GPU to do other things. So these devices actually last you all day, even when you're using some of the most power-hungry features, like your camera, like something happening in the background, like live captioning. You've just got a ton of capabilities built into these Copilot Plus PCs, and this is all happening on device. I can take this device and put it into airplane mode, and everything would still work. You notice my caption's still happening, my blur is still happening on my camera. Everything's happening locally on this device. So wanted to land on that with the Surface Pro. All right, I'm going to jump out of this for a second. And so there may still be questions to differentiate the devices. We've got Surface devices with Intel processors in them, and we've got Surface devices with Qualcomm processors in them. And I'll expand on this in a little bit, but I do want to just highlight that our devices, we want to give you choice, and we want to meet you where you are. Some organizations may be ready to adopt ARM. We'll touch on that in a little bit. And some organizations may not want to change the status quo, and we've got Intel options in our portfolio as well. So I'll touch on that in a second, but I do want to transition to talk about our laptops primarily. So we've got a few laptops as well, which I will highlight here on this slide. So we've got the Laptop 6, if we jump in, the Laptop 6 for business, which is our previous generation, our Intel Core Ultra 5 or 7 processor. We make them in a 13.5 or a 15-inch. These are great devices and fantastic for a lot of organizations. Our Copilot Plus PCs are really the ones that have an emphasis on on-device AI. And those are the ones that are Copilot Plus certified. Just like the Pros, they have the Snapdragon X Elite or the Intel Core Ultra processors. But regardless of which laptop you choose, and if we jump out, regardless of which laptop you choose, if you're getting a Surface, you're getting enterprise and corporate grade security with a trusted platform module, a TPM 2.0 chip. You're getting a great typing and touchpad experience, awesome camera experience. And all of these devices actually have those Windows Studio effects that I talked about earlier. You're getting a Copilot key on all of them on the keyboard, so you can invoke Copilot in Windows really easily. Or Microsoft 365 Copilot if your organization is paying for that licensing. But either way, your users will have Copilot. And all of the devices are Surface devices. So beautiful, gorgeous Pixel Sense display that we call at Surface. Great cameras, great microphones, just a great computing experience. And battery life is going to be better on our Copilot Plus PCs, but you'll still get all-day battery life with our Laptop 6 as well. You've got options from 8 GB of RAM to 64 GB of RAM, but our Copilot Plus devices, the ones on the right, they start at 16 GB of RAM, and you can get them in 16 or 32 gig configurations. And we're even opening up 64 GB configurations for our Snapdragon laptops. So I know that's a lot of details. So let's kind of talk about the devices and jump in, and maybe you'll see them in action and it'll make a little bit more sense. So if we jump into the Surface laptop, I've got two different sizes here. I've got a 13.8 inch and I've got a 15 inch. And this 13.8 inch, you'll notice they both have a Surface Connect port. So this is how you charge the device with that magnetic breakaway connection. The 15 inch has a micro SD card slot. So if you want to expand your storage or connect to a camera or connect to, just about anything else, you've got that micro SD. On the other side of these devices, we have headphone jacks, so a 3.5mm headphone jack. That's actually not present on our Pro devices. So if it's something that you need as part of your workflow, you've got it on the laptops. And we also have this on our Thunderbolt 4 dock that you can plug into either of these devices as well. But you've got headphone jack, you've got USB-A, and you've got dual USB Type-C ports. Now on our devices with Intel processors, the Type-C ports are Thunderbolt certified. Otherwise, they're USB 4 ports. Their functionality is broadly the same. You can connect to multiple monitors using them. You can connect to multiple docking stations using them. You can connect to high-speed interfaces. But there are certain accessories that are Thunderbolt certified. You have that certification on the Intel devices. But for my day-to-day and for most people's day-to-day, they're broadly, capabilities are very, very similar. If we look at the kind of other view of this, you may see the sizing of the devices. So if I bring them up corner to corner, the 13.8-inch screen on our latest Copilot Plus PCs is an awesome, awesome form factor. But the 15-inch is even larger. And so we've got these in a couple of different choices of color and finish. And actually, I'm going to showcase one of them right now. So I'm going to actually use the 15-inch as we do this. So for this one, on the laptops, they open up with a single finger, and you can use Windows Hello. Let's see if it'll log me in. Awesome. So it logged me straight in using my face. And there's a few things I'm going to showcase. I might need to set up a couple of different applications. But what I want to showcase is, if I plug into the screen just a second. There we are. I want to showcase a couple of other capabilities that are available on our Copilot Plus PCs. So if we jump into this screen, you'll notice that this device is actually running a preview build of Windows. And what this preview build of Windows has is some characteristics that are present on our Copilot Plus PCs. And so remember, our Copilot Plus PCs have this NPU for AI processing. And they can do things like improve your search experience. So imagine, a scenario where folks in your organization don't know where to find settings. They want to add their headphones. And so on a Copilot Plus PC, in theory, And of course, my demo seems to not be working. I'm running a very insider preview here on this device. So maybe I'm going to jump out to another device. Yeah, let me jump out to another device really quickly. That's a funny one. We'll do a couple of seconds of testing here to see why the demo that worked 20 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago is no longer working. Well, I think I'm going to have to just showcase it on this device, and we'll power through here. So the idea of that demo was that the computer adapts to you, and you can type in using natural language now, thanks to the neural processing unit on these devices, that NPU, and then you're able to search for things faster. Now, it's still in preview, and so it looks like the build that I had on that device might be a little bit broken right now, but this is expected to come to general availability later this year. And the point is that when you invest in these Copilot Plus PCs, you have the capabilities in the future, both now, things like those live captioning, those Windows Studio effects, but also things in the future too. So maybe we jump back in here and we look at just general file search. So I've got a whole bunch of different files that I have. And maybe I want to search for all of the times that there's been a face in any of my files. Now, traditionally, oh, look at that. There's actually a TCO white paper. So it opened up and actually found there's faces within this white paper of the people who helped write it. And this is, I think, by IDC. So these researchers are the ones talking about the total cost of ownership and the business case of Microsoft Surface. What's actually super cool is there's a whole website that we have, tco.exploresurface.microsoft.com, where we actually dive into the total cost of ownership of owning a Surface device. And it's something that I encourage you to look at the study that IDC did to talk about the reasons why organizations are choosing Surface, and they're saving money directly. They're saving money through a better employee experience and through efficiency of IT as well. And there's a ton that you can do here. You can click through and run through the devices and all of that stuff. But the idea that I wanted to show you here was actually just that this was found by looking up face in Windows search. And traditionally on a Windows device, search is not always the thing that most people will point to as being the best part of a Windows PC. There's a lot of other advantages, but search has always been kind of one of those points that's difficult for folks. I also have like images of faces. So here's actually an image of my boss. His name's Frank. And here he is dressed as Chappell Roan, talking about one of our Surface products at an event we did recently. I always love to show that because it's kind of, it's a funny picture, at least for me. But what's cool is that this is the actual stuff that I use on a day-to-day basis. It looks like I don't have a whole lot of images on here, but it'll do searches throughout images. So if I do another search, maybe for like bamboo or something like that, let's see if it finds, oh yes, so it found images of bamboo. And I promise you, if I go into the info on this file, I didn't cheat and add in like the metadata or description that this is an image of bamboo. It just found it. And actually, it'll even find it in maybe a PDF or maybe a PowerPoint deck where bamboo is mentioned, or even in this screenshot. I think this is awesome. There's a screenshot here that I'll open. And what that screenshot is actually within that screenshot, there's bamboo in the thumbnails. So I think that's crazy. Like that's bamboo in the thumbnail of the screenshot. As far as I know, there's nothing mentioned about bamboo. So anyways, the search experience is improving on these Windows PCs, but also just the experience of using your device improves with the Copilot Plus device. So remember when I pulled up this white paper, maybe there's an image that I wanted to reuse. I have the ability to go Windows Click, and this feature is called Click to Do. And I can take this in a PDF even, or anything that I'm looking at, and I can do actions based on it. So maybe I can, copy and extract some information from it. I can do a search, like a Control F, but anywhere in Windows on the screen. But I can also do contextual actions based on what's happening on screen. So in this case, I want to use this image, but I actually want to make sure that I'm erasing anything in the background. So it looks like in the background, I've got some of this stuff that I can actually use the touchscreen of the Surface laptop to get rid of. And you notice that it actually erased that pretty well. And now I'm going to erase this too. And now I can reuse this image and copy it and do other things. I can even start to increase the resolution of this image through super resolution. And you'll notice as I pull up my task manager, this stuff is working off of the NPU. And that neural processing unit is what's spiking when I'm asking it to do things. But my CPU is chilling here at 6% usage, and my GPU is chilling as well. They're not being asked to do heavy work. It's just the NPU that's working in the background. And you may have a hard time seeing on Teams, but the aliasing of this image is vastly improved when I added that super resolution. So the idea is not that these features here are the end-all be-all. And actually, if I jump out, the idea is not that these features are the end-all be-all. They give your employees this specific amount of time back. But the point is that these Copilot+ PCs are able to enhance your day-to-day workflow, enhance your staff's productivity, make it easier for them to do more, find more, act on things quicker. And Windows is improving with these Copilot+ PCs. So I don't want to land too much on this point, but there's a ton of other investment, actually. And if I jump in for just a second on the device too, there's the ability for organizations to go as far as they want to with AI. So if organizations want to install and run their own on-device AI models, then you can do that. We actually have this new app called the AI Dev Gallery where you can get some inspiration and some samples, but maybe you want to download models onto these devices, or your organization wants to dive all in and say, we want to adapt the model for an on-device chatbot to be able to serve our communities better. You can do that. And these devices have a runtime running on them. Essentially, Windows has built in some capabilities that on this device, without any additional download, you can actually see that it's creating text. And right now, I just asked it to introduce itself. But this AI is creating text using the NPU on this device. I showcase this not to say that, I mean, sure, it is cool, but I showcase this as we jump out just to get your brains thinking about how you might want to use AI in your organization. Of course, Microsoft 365 Copilot is great for your organization's data, for searching through things within your org, making your meetings more efficient and all of that. But a lot of times you're thinking about ways of improving your mission. And to do that, you might want to start considering, I'm sure many of you are already considering on-device AI. And you can set up the capabilities where maybe you have a service in the cloud that runs certain AI at a cost, but on these devices, the AI is there for you to run as long as you make the initial purchase of the device. And so these Copilot+ PCs aren't any more expensive than our previous generation devices, but they have so many more capabilities because you have the ability to run these on-device models. So I don't want to drain that. I probably already spent too much time, but they're doing exciting things in the realm of accessibility. Like you can control your whole computing experience just using your face and your expressions. That's a third-party application called Cephable that's really cool. There's the market is exploding with opportunities. And actually, if I transition a little bit, you can see that there's an ecosystem of applications. Not all of these are AI specific, but there's an ecosystem of applications that is driving a lot of capabilities on our Surface devices and on our Copilot+ PCs. What this slide is actually meant to highlight as we jump out of it is a key point that I said I would revisit. You have choice of silicon with our Surface devices. You've got a choice of Intel processors, but you also have a choice of Qualcomm processors. And many of you may have heard of the latest Snapdragon X Elite and X Plus processors that we launched with Qualcomm this past year with these Copilot+ PCs. And there's exciting advancements in efficiency, in AI capabilities, and just battery life and performance, the fundamentals of what makes a device great. Those are key for organizations of all types to be able to take advantage of. And for the first time, these devices truly are competing with anything in the market space from performance and a price per per watt of efficiency on the device. But I do want to just add the caveat that there are certain scenarios where organizations may run into compatibility issues. And there's a ton of momentum in the ecosystem of third-party applications that if you buy or you test out an ARM-based Windows device, an ARM-based Surface device running our Snapdragon processors, you're probably going to have no issues with it. I don't have anything running into my day-to-day at Microsoft, but certain organizations will have line of business applications or maybe some third-party apps that aren't yet optimized for ARM. And that's a consideration. And so for those customers that aren't ready to adopt ARM, we've got Intel-based processors as well in our devices too. So you've got choice. And if you want more help and advice on which to choose, talk over this scenario with Brandon or Carson or the extended team that's on this call. I'm sure they'd be happy to dive into one-on-ones and have more in-depth conversations with you. What about vendors? I see a question come in the chat. What about vendors like Canon that don't seem eager to support ARM-based systems? So that's a great question. I don't know, Jonathan. That's a great question, Jonathan. There are certain vendors that haven't yet adopted ARM. Now, in many cases, those apps will actually run just fine, even if they're not specifically written for ARM. But in some cases, like printer drivers being a main one, there's actually still work that needs to be done by the vendor to rewrite drivers for an ARM-based system. Now, some of that work has to be done by the third-party vendor. But the Microsoft Aperture team, we have a whole team of engineers dedicated to hand-holding and supporting third-party vendors of getting those drivers rewritten, getting their programs rewritten for ARM. In many cases, there's just a block when you download an app that just says, hey, this doesn't meet our system requirements, we're not going to let you run it, even though it absolutely can run, and it would run great on an ARM-based system. And so it's just removing those blocks and removing those manual things is taking time, but actually we've seen a ton of momentum just in the last couple of months. A lot of third-party antivirus softwares, a lot of VPN software, those were kind of the things that were lagging behind. Those are now fully compatible with ARM-based systems in a lot of cases. But printer drivers are kind of that one last thing. So we're still working on that. And just know that if you want broad compatibility with really old printer systems especially, there's a chance that it's not going to be an ARM-based system for you just right now. But it's a good question. Yeah, how about SQL? I don't know too much about SQL, but I don't imagine you have any issues running it either natively or non-natively through emulation on these devices. Actually, the latest Snapdragon devices are so much more powerful that even compared to our previous generation Pro 9 and Laptop 5, even apps running under emulation, they're faster on the ARM-based devices now than our previous generation Intel devices, which I think is pretty special. So, it sounds like SQL is not compatible yet. So yeah, there's still work that's being done. We publish lists that some of our Microsoft folks can access for you if you want to know like what's the status of a specific app, but we leave it up to the third-party app developers to announce when they're bringing ARM compatibility to their applications. So it's a good question. All right, so I've talked a lot about our Surface devices. I want to land on some value proposition of these devices so that you understand that by investing in a Surface device, you're getting more than just the hardware. And so one of the things I wanted to land on here is actually our core commitments to sustainability, being carbon negative, water positive, zero waste, and to protect our ecosystem. And you can actually go out and see these core commitments on our web pages here, and we publish sustainability reports. And so our devices are designed with this in mind. And designed with low emissions, with zero waste. You'll actually see in our packaging, it's entirely devoid of plastic. It's all paper-based packaging now in our latest for business devices. And our devices use more recycled materials than ever before. So like in our Pro, it's over 66% of the chassis is recycled aluminum. And we're even incorporating recycled cobalt into our batteries on our latest gen devices. So we're thinking about sustainability across the device. We're also thinking about it across the life cycle of the device. So if we jump in here, this kind of illustrates some of the points I was making. With recycled materials, with our thoughtful packaging, our devices are more energy efficient than ever before. And that actually means that in the box, you have smaller power supplies in these devices than previous generations because they just don't take up as much power. That just means that your organization saves money and can be more efficient at every worker that you have or every staff member that you have on your team. And then repairability is a huge thing. Actually, if we jump out of the slide for a second, I love highlighting that our devices, we now have repairability videos on each of our devices on YouTube. You can go to youtube.com/Surface and see them. And I already mentioned, like on the Pro, you can remove the SSD. That allows for you to take apart the whole system. On the laptop, something simple as the feet on this laptop. And actually, you might need to go to maybe the third view here. You see this foot here. You can now, on the latest Copilot Plus PCs, you can remove that foot totally. You've got a screw in there. And this part can really easily snap back on. Now, I know this is something simple, but on our Surface devices, this used to be a single-use foot, and it was glued on, and that's no longer the case. And so now, if we jump out to the main view, there's just 4 screws on this device that you can access and see replaceable and repairable parts. We stock them on our websites. We stock them in our distributors and resellers. Things like the battery you can replace, the motherboard, the USB ports, the screen, the keyboard, and a bunch of other components are now fully repairable and replaceable. And you've got an option as a customer. You can either repair the devices yourself, which is great for like long-term use of these devices. Maybe you want to repair for donating them to other organizations in the future. When you're done with them, you can remove the SSDs and retain that data for your organization if you want to. But also you can have an authorized service provider do all this work for you, or you can still have Microsoft support do this for you as well. You just have more options now that our devices aren't all glued together. And in Surface's 12-year history, we've come a long, long way in the repairability of our devices. Now we see ourselves in like an industry-leading position amongst large OEMs right now. So we're pleased with that repairability. All right. I kind of touched on recycled materials. I'm not going to drain this in the interest of time. What I do want to talk about is we've got accessories that augment the experience, but specifically, I want to highlight the Surface management and support portals. So these are investments that we've made for organizations of any size and type to be able to take advantage of managing their fleet of devices much easier. So you've got 2 options. One of them is the Surface management portal. Now this, if you are currently using Intune for managing your devices, this is where you're going to find everything for these devices. And actually, if you have even one Surface device managed via Intune, you can go to your Intune admin center, as long as you've got the admin permissions, and you can see that Surface device in your organization, can see its software status, its firmware status, whether it's warranty status, any tickets that have been created across that device, and you can manage that all from a single place. Now, if you don't pay for Intune and you don't have that licensing, you still have a great self-service support portal experience in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. And these are just designed to save your organization time. They're designed to be a one-stop shop, a really easy place for you to view everything about your devices, to get support for them, to see the latest support articles, to download tools like our Surface IT Toolkit. If you want to deploy a bunch of these devices manually, you can do it that way, or you want to provide a secure wipe for your devices, or you want to reset a device back to its main bare metal kind of firmware, you can do that stuff too. So you've got a ton of capabilities built into these portals. I just want to talk about the investment that we've made in making it easier for you to manage these. And this just dives into a little bit more on the Surface Management Portal. So now I want to get to kind of some of my closing thoughts. These devices, these Surface devices, were obviously designed for productivity. They're designed for work, and they're optimized for nonprofits. And I think Brandon kind of opened up, and even Carson opened up with some anecdotes from many of our customers and many of the organizations that we work through and work with. And we're just really proud of the work that's being done on these Surface devices and the work that's yet to be done with future investments in these devices. We'd be happy to partner with you in many different ways with our latest devices. And I think at this point now, I want to open it up for any questions and question and answer. So we've got a few minutes left. I'm going to pull up my device. And Brandon and Carson, please feel free to come off mute if you wish for anything that we want to address to the larger group. So I see a question about, is the RAM swappable? So on these devices, while they're very repairable, the system on chip design philosophy of these devices, really from Qualcomm and Intel, will mean that they have soldered on RAM. And so with Intel's latest Lunar Lake or Core Ultra Series 2 processors, it's actually memory on package. It's a part of the package of the processor. So it's not user replaceable, unfortunately. There's a point about needing help with repair parts lead times. Nothing's in the channel with an average 8-week lead time. That's good feedback. Very, very good feedback on repair parts lead times. So it's good to know, because when I get up here and say you can now have options of repairability, if one of those options is for you to buy spare parts, you need to be able to have them available. So we'll definitely take that as an action. It's good feedback. There's one about pricing that I actually love. Brandon, maybe if you want to come on, do you offer non-for-profit pricing options?
We do have non-for-profit pricing options. It depends on what model and spec you're looking at, but pretty much across most of the devices we talked about today, you're either getting a non-profit discount or you're getting a volume discount through your reseller. And so depending on what you'd like to look at, if you want to fill out that form, we can reach out to you after the event and make sure that we get you going with any discounts that we have available. We do have currently promotions on the Pro 10 and Laptop 6 through the end of March as well.
Love that. Love that. Thanks, Brandon. I also see a question on where are devices assembled and manufactured. So that's a good question. Most of our devices are assembled globally, but we will print that they're made in China in most cases. We do have TAA compliant SKUs for many of our devices, not all, many of our devices for organizations that need that compliance as well. So you have devices that are not assembled in China in that case. We have our own factories and our own kind of Microsoft hardware that's produced there. Anything else we want to draw attention to? Oh, I see the whole Q&A section. So does Copilot Plus PC come with built-in Windows 11 OS or just specific with Windows OS on Surfaces only? So yes, it's a good point. These devices, and Brandon brought it up in chat as well, these devices are all recommended to run Windows 11. And specifically the latest version of Windows 11 being the 24H2 version. If your organization is still using Windows 10, we encourage you to spend the time now to invest in Windows 11. There's broad compatibility between Windows 10 and Windows 11 systems, but if you need devices that have the ability to run Windows 10 just in case you still need to do that, actually our previous gen Intel devices, the Laptop 6 and the Pro 10, are the only ones that have the capability of running Windows 10. These newer devices will require Windows 11, at least officially, and they'll ship from the factory all of these with Windows 11. So we highly recommend you consider upgrading your devices as part of your strategy for moving on from Windows 10, as it is reaching end of support later this year. In October, actually, of this year is when Windows 10 is reaching the end of its lifetime. And you will need to move to Windows 11, or there's some options for extended support if you need to, but that comes at a significant cost that you may as well reinvest into new devices.
And I think to piggyback off that, there was another question around, will my E5 license cover some of that AI functionality that you showcased, Jacob? And that's really one of the biggest benefits we're seeing of Copilot Plus PCs for organizations that aren't necessarily ready to fully embrace Copilot, the paid version for every single user. This is a really great way of starting folks with some type of AI experience to make that workflow a lot more exciting, a lot more seamless for them. All of the experiences that Jacob showcased today are built into the PCs and benefit from that neural processing unit. And so while Microsoft 365 E5 will certainly help when we consider how we streamline the deployment and the management and the security best practices of the device. Everything that you saw today, you can experience out of the box. Some of that coming when we release an update a little bit later on this year. You got to see some of the cutting edge things that we're working on today, but stuff that we're all testing in the background, and it's blowing our mind every day. Some really cool functionality that's coming there.
Love that, Brandon. I want to just address one final thing in chat because I think you got to almost everything in the Q&A, Brandon, but it's something that just came in. What real-world performance improvements can users expect from a Copilot Plus PC versus a high-end traditional PC that relies solely on CPU and GPU? So when I think about the performance of devices, we're talking for Copilot Plus PCs right now, they shine in mobile and on-the-go scenarios, where you're taking a device from place to place, where performance is important, but also efficiency and battery life are important. Previous generation devices from Microsoft and other vendors are really always focused on being plugged into a wall, connected up to the wall power, being able to run at the highest performance setting from there. With these latest Copilot Plus PCs, it's really about performance on battery. That's a key part of the equation. And what the NPU allows for is just for battery to excel more. So you're doing those things in the background. The raw performance improvements on these devices are definitely notable, but I'm not going to stand here and say that this laptop from a raw speed performance is like twice as good as anything else in the market. It's not. But where it does shine is the blend of efficiency with running AI tasks and running any traditional task at the same time, while still not hurting your battery performance. So Copilot Plus PCs excel at great performance. We do have the tagline for the category as being the fastest Windows PCs. But you can get a desktop system or a laptop that's designed to be plugged into the wall all day that has higher theoretical CPU performance. But it's really that blend of features and that blend of compatibility as well as performance on battery that's really key for a Copilot Plus PC. And you'll see more and more things that can only run on the NPU. I didn't talk about recall today much, which is a feature that we're bringing in the future to Windows Insider right now. Those sorts of features, they will require an NPU, and they do right now require an NPU to do it all. And so you want to think about positioning devices that give you the ability to run this background AI. It's NPU only. And so that allows for your CPU and GPU to do their normal work without any other additional burden. All right, team. So from me, I know that we're at time. We're a couple minutes over. I want to thank you for your time, and I want to pass over to Brandon and or Carson if there's any final notes that they have as well. But I want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Jacob, and thank you everybody for attending. So I just put in the chat, we'll follow up with a thank you email that'll include the promo highlights. It'll include the form link so you can reach out to us. Let us know that you want us to reach back out to you. But just super excited for everything that's coming our way from Microsoft's device strategy and Surface. And we appreciate the continued trust and partnership on the device front to continue to help you serve your organizations.
Couldn't have said it better. Definitely want to extend our gratitude. Jacob, Brandon, thank you both. And thank you to everybody who joined today. We'll send a copy of the recording out as well. And as you absorb and digest that, feel free to share it within your organization. Let us know of questions and where we can lean in and help. That's what our team exists to do, is to support you and those that you serve. So thank you for the time, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good one, everybody.